Time to embarrass ourselves.
Okay, it's like mirrored weird. Okay, sorry.
Now we're recording.
Awesome.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to 2016. We're here.
It's a good year already, right? 16 just happens to be my lucky number, so we'll see. All right, so for those of you that this is your first time watching, this is our weekly show that we call The Hot Seat, and we are Christina and Sarah. I'm Sarah from One Woman Shop, which is a resource hub and membership community for female solo business owners. Christina, am I missing anything there?
I think that's us. You remembered the word membership. We'll talk a little bit about that and how we got there in this talk today.
All right.
So, yeah, we're back with our first blab of 2016. We took a little bit of a hiatus, which we're going to be talking about, the value of hiatuses. Hiati? I don't know how you do it. And we'll be talking a little bit about a recap of our holidays, what we did, super scintillating, and how we are getting into 2016 for One Woman Shop, how we're managing our priorities and our projects. So, Sarah, what did you do over the holidays?
Well, to be honest, it was the first half of the holidays right around Christmas were absolutely nuts. I have two very large Italian families, and they all want to see us on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So within 48 hours, we saw an astronomical amount of family. But it was great, also exhausting. And so the week after, I legitimately did not check my email more than once every, I don't even know, 2 days maybe. And really tried to stay as much off the computer as I could. I did complete one lingering project, as you know, that I just felt needed to happen before the year end. And I did it on my own schedule. I slept in every day. I wrapped up and actually took the nights off. So that was awesome. It felt so good, so different from the normal schedule. So yeah, tell me about your holidays though.
First of all, I just want to say how impressed. You already know how impressed I am by you sleeping in. I feel like that's the biggest takeaway here. So my holiday was very lovely, but very different than yours. So I've been in Mexico. I still am in Mexico with my mom. So we have the honor of spending multiple weeks together. It's awesome. And so we went to Puebla, which is, I was telling you the other day, it's a really interesting place. It's very posh and kind of, I think, really trendy, but not touristy at all. So you don't really see any other travelers, it's fun. I think it's kind of, you're forced to speak Spanish, and you just kind of feel like you're going into uncharted territory, as opposed to where I live, which is totally touristy and expat central. And so we have done a lot of games of Skip-Bo. You know Skip-Bo?
I love Skip-Bo, yes.
My mom is like obsessed. We play every single day. So cool. And lots of coffee, some eating of fried grasshoppers, as I told you.
Yeah. I can't quite stomach that one from afar.
They're really salty. It tastes like chicken.
Everything.
It actually just tastes like salt, honestly. And yeah, so it's been really, really nice. And I also didn't really check email that much. I would open my computer and be like, oh yeah, that thing, my browser's stuck on that thing I Googled 3 days ago because I haven't opened it. And that's a really nice feeling sometimes. But then, you deal with the getting back into it, which is a little bit hard. But I know that you have very strong opinions about the importance of rest, as do I, from Solopreneur Sanity. But the thing that really prompted this conversation was an Instagram that you saw. So do you want to talk about that Instagram?
Yep, absolutely. So Christina and I were kind of talking about how relaxing our holidays were and how we didn't want to jump right back into the rat race, for lack of a better term. We wanted to ease back in. We wanted it to feel different because we saw how good life can be when you do take time away. But I think it was Sunday night, maybe. I'm scrolling through Instagram and I see a quote that was shared by Elite Daily, who half their stuff makes me literally pee my pants laughing. But this one made me
literally
angry because they shared a quote from, I believe it was Oscar de la Renta, that said, "Rest equals rust." And I read it and I'm like, they must be sharing that to refute that. And then I read a lot of the comments and people were agreeing. nobody wants to be rusty. I'll sleep when I die, all these things. And I'm looking at this, I'm like, these people can't be serious. So I legitimately just had to close it because I was like, I'm not going to bother commenting on it. But this sparked an entire thought on my mind of how many people feel like this, especially when we turn to a new year and people want to jump in full hog. They want to go after the goals that they've set. They want to dream bigger than they dreamt in 2015. And I'm just thinking, like, this is actually really scary. How many people feel like they can't take time to rest because there has to be so much accomplished? And especially because we just finished writing Solopreneur Sanity, our handbook that we'll be introducing at the end of the month. How's that for accountability? And so we obviously for the last couple of weeks have been practicing what we're preaching there, where time off and rest is super important. But I still feel like there's a stigma attached to it that says it's not okay and you need to feel guilty about it. And that quote and all those comments agreeing with it just lit me up.
And made you want to start a blog on the topic.
Sure did.
You know, something that just occurred to me, I obviously agree wholeheartedly with you, but I think sometimes there's a stigma around taking breaks, and then sometimes there's, well, breaks are okay because that's when you have all these ideas and you can come back to your work with a billion new ideas. And I feel a lot of the times like I do come back with a billion ideas. And this time I thought about work, not at all. I have no new ideas. I have no blog posts I want to write. I have just nothing interesting to contribute to the business. Obviously that will all come back in a matter of hours, I'm sure. But I think that there is this implication that, well, you can rest, but you must come back with something having been gained from your rest other than rest. So I guess we're here today also to refute that you might come back with nothing, but that's okay too.
Yeah, but tell me a little bit more about that, because even though you're saying you didn't come back with anything when it comes to like ideas or whatever that might be,
right.
What did you come back with? Because I know you didn't come back with absolutely nothing.
I'm trying to see if you're leading me in some direction or whether, yeah.
Yeah, the feelings that you come back with.
I come back, is there something specific? Did I say something specific?
No, really. Okay. It's like, you might not come back feeling like you have to write 10 blog posts or whatever, but you came out of it feeling good, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I come out of it feeling like I got really valuable family time. My roommate and I always joke about the people who are like in the coffee shop reading for pleasure on on a Tuesday. And we're like, we want to be those people, but we're not really, because I feel like I'm just not rushing from thing to thing, but I feel like I have a pretty busy schedule that I'm the person working in the coffee shop and not the person reading in the coffee shop. But I did hear, this will satisfy you. I came back with a lot of notes on Rising Strong. I was telling you, I was sitting in Mexico City in a hotel bar, drinking a glass of wine and reading Rising Strong. And I started writing some like sassy little notes to myself.
Well, now you're leaving the part out about the second glass of wine on that one.
Oh, right. Yeah. The insightful comments were glass 1, and then the sassy comments were glass 2 of wine. And I was like laughing at myself and like writing these comments. I'm like, haha, I'm so funny. So I guess it was a mix. That to me didn't really feel like work. We're reading Rising Strong as part of book club, and so we can do a blab about it, but the intention wasn't to just read it for that. Mm-hmm. How about you? What else did you
so I'd say during rest, even though this time I was very, very good about completely disconnecting and really not thinking about anything, and I think it's because there was so much other stuff going on, I still came back with some ideas and whatnot, and also some questions of plans that I had put in place before. So I still spent time thinking about work, but what I really came out of it with was this feeling of I can relax, and this knowing of the fact that I stepped away and things didn't fall apart. My to-do list was still there when I got back, and just this feeling of that's the person I want to be, the person that can unplug and spend time with family while they're not checking their phone, the person that can sit on the couch and read a fiction novel, not a workbook, for 45 minutes to an hour and a half. I mean, New Year's Eve afternoon, after I finished one project, I literally sat on the couch for 2 hours just reading a fiction book. And that was before hours of binge watching Making a Murder. Making a Murder. So yeah, it was just really, even though I didn't come out of it like, hey, I'm like super reinvigorated to jump into a 4-hour work session of just nonstop blog writing or whatever it might be. I came out of it with this feeling of gratitude for the time that I was able to spend, but also this knowledge that I can do that and it's okay. And my body does need it. My mind does need it. But
you're really rusty now, aren't you?
Well, and that's the thing, you know, I had to grease up the joints. No, absolutely not. And that's what kills me is that, you know, I think most of us would agree that there's actually more danger in pushing your body and your mind, not sleeping, not staying hydrated, not taking care of yourself than there is to taking time off and resting. I would say that you put your body and your mind in way more danger by pushing through as opposed to resting. So I want to see the quote on that on Instagram, and I will cheer that one on.
Well, let's make that quote. I was thinking about that. I was like, what clever thing can we say instead of rest equals rest? Like, what? We need to come up with our own catchy slogan for rest is the bomb.
Yeah. So welcome to everybody over in the comments. And Jenny, I know you shared this on Facebook. Thanks so much for doing that because I see a bunch of your people here. But feel free to share in the comments there about, you know, how you take time to rest, what your thoughts on resting are. And then, you know, towards the end, we can always open up the seat if you actually want to share with us. But Christina, do you want to kind of transition into how we're actually approaching our jump back into 2016?
Yep. Sounds great. So we did a 9-hour audit of One Woman Shop right before the holidays. So we just did 9 hours of video. We had a few little breaks. We like our bathroom breaks and our water breaks and our coffee breaks.
And our breakdowns.
What?
And our breakdowns.
Our little mini breakdowns as well. Yeah, our mental crises. But we wanted to basically look at everything we've been doing since we've been working together on One Woman Shop, reassess. So our criteria was kind of, we come out of everything as keep it, we delete it, eliminate it, or edit it, modify it. And so that was kind of our approach when we looked at all the things we've been doing for One Woman Shop. And so I'll tie this back into another blog we're going to have coming up, but we've been reading Essentialism, also for book club, and have had a lot of really important takeaways from that about really focusing in and saying no to opportunities that are meh or just good, but they're not great. And so I know we're trying to both look at our actions and contrast them against the essentialist mindset and make sure that we're really on track. But do you want to talk about how we've taken all of the audit findings and putting them into action for 2016?
Yeah. And I see Jenny, she says, I've heard of that book. Jenny is probably the biggest fan of that book that I've met. So both of us are super excited to be reading it and actually implementing what we're learning. So the whole idea behind the audit was, like Christina said, to really evaluate what we were already doing, but also to move forward and figure out what we're going to be doing. And so even though we did this audit, I think it was like December 17th or something, whatever that Thursday was, we revisited it a few days later, and then we didn't touch it for a week and a half, which at first I was kind of feeling really guilty. Like, we did this huge amount of work. How can we just walk away from it? But now it's nice to revisit it in pieces and look at the different action steps that we want to put around it, because that's essentially what it's all about. Is we plotted out these really big ideas and breaking them down so we can actually take the next step towards making them happen, and putting a schedule around them. Because I think we did an initial schedule when we felt, we kind of feel like we really pared down and we're not doing a lot. We put that in a schedule and looked at it and we're like, we can't keep up with this schedule. This is a little rigorous. So really actually drawing stuff out and putting action around it really helps you to realize how much is realistic.
Yes. Knowing that it always takes longer than we think it will. And we learned that luckily we have a year under our belts of working together and using a pretty similar structure, which is monthly themes and then big projects every few months on top of those monthly themes. And so, we have a year of experience of every project having taken longer than we thought it would. And this year saying, we're over here like it took so long. And then we're like, well, this year is the second year, so it'll be super easy because we know everything now. And then coming to find the middle, being like, no, yes, it might be easy the second year. Probably it'll still take longer than we think. Finding that middle ground.
Absolutely. We have a question of whether this was our first time doing this audit. We are big proponents of what we call jam sessions. And at the beginning of 2015, we were doing them monthly. So they were like these monthly audits almost, where we'd jump on for 4 to 6 hours at a time and kind of look at everything we were doing. But this was, like Christina said, our first full year as a partnership. And so this was our first real massive audit to look at a full year's worth of stuff we've done and how we want to move forward. And I wanted to talk about something that really helped us in having that essentialist mindset and evaluating everything that we were doing was that, and we've helped our coaching clients with this before, but we had never really done it for ourselves. And that was really defining our mission at One Woman Shop, who we are, who we want to be, and who we're serving. Because having those actual definitions and just bullet point lists really sitting there in front of us helps us look at everything that we are doing, whether it's an idea we're super excited about or one where we're like, well, we feel like we should be doing that, and measuring it up against that mission statement to see if it is truly something that's going to serve our community and our members.
Definitely. And a huge part of that is writing down, we got this from Essentialism and from other places as well, but writing down what we're not. And so it's so tempting to be like, we are going to be everything for everyone, for every solopreneur ever. But really, so, I think we both kind of felt like we had a pretty narrow audience. We have women solo business owners, but even once you start being in that community, you're like, this is huge. There's online business owners, there's retail business owners, there's the different mindsets. And so really narrowing down kind of the people that we want to be working with, but also the services that we don't really feel like are our strengths. So we have a few core things that we feel we can really talk about. We love talking about solopreneur sanity being one of them, building our online community being another thing. But then there's things we're never going to be those people. And so writing that down as a thing we're not, I think is really helpful to avoid trying to fill those areas.
Yeah, and it also gave us some really great ideas of potential collaborations for the future. Why try to be everything? Well, we can find other people that are and work with them, which is something that we love to do. But it also helped us realize that we created a lot in 2015. Mm-hmm. And we didn't necessarily make the most of everything that we created. So I think the massive epiphany that we had during this audit was, well, why are we talking about creating new e-courses or ebooks or products when we've created really fantastic ones and we can find different ways to utilize them to work with different people? And so looking at what we had already created, if we hadn't stepped back and looked at everything we had done, I don't think we would have been able to come to that realization. And I think we are ridiculously excited about what we're going to do with it in 2016. Yes. I realize I'm talking in really vague terms.
Yeah. Well, I think it was interesting because this thing that we're going to be doing was a little side note somewhere in our multiple page Google Doc. And I think you're absolutely right that if we hadn't gone through step by step and started looking at the pieces in different ways, and had this little puzzle, it never would have come together in the way that it did. So that was really exciting. But I also want to talk about one of the frustrating things of doing an audit, which for us is apparently someone said you can't do everything, which is really annoying, but I think true. So, should I give a specific example? So basically we realized that we were investing a lot of time and energy into something that people said that they wanted, but weren't necessarily we didn't really necessarily feel like it was the best use of our time, like it was the best way to connect with our community. So we decided to ixnay it. And so that sucks because you almost feel like it's a failure, even though you have to look at it as, okay, we had a year of successfulness around this and now we're deciding to move on from it. So that's the frustrating part of an audit is you have to kind of come to terms and be very honest with the things that are not your core offerings and that aren't really getting you traction, even though you want them to get you traction.
Absolutely. And just recognizing that we simply don't have all the time in the world. And so really prioritizing based on what's going to have the most impact for the people we want to work with and what our strengths are. One of the questions is, can you share your core things? So in terms of defining our mission and what we are, one of the things we really came up with is that One Woman Shop provides knowledge and support. I think that struck a chord with you, Christina, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we owe our elevator pitch is that we are a resource hub and community for women solo business owners, which we realize is really leaving out the awareness of the fact that, yes, we are a community. You can be on our email list, read our blog, but we're also a membership community, a really tight-knit membership community. So we were able to actually make one small tweak to our elevator pitch that we feel makes a huge difference. Yeah. And, we kind of define some of the biggest issues that we tackle. Isolation. Our tagline is going it alone shouldn't feel lonely. Overwhelm, doubt, and uncertainty. I'm cheating because I'm totally looking at
I know, she's got to be looking at it.
Yeah, no. I said December 17th, right? It was like years ago. Tackling the prevalent idea that we don't have to do it all. Like, that just cracks me up because you're saying how frustrating that actually is, but we're preaching that to others that you don't have to do it all. And then using the power of the group. That's really what we're all about, community.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to go back to, you don't have to do it all. It's not only you don't have to do it all, you don't have to do it all. So really tying in the idea that you can partner with really great people. You can still be a One Woman Shop member. But you always say solopreneurship doesn't happen in a silo. And so really honing in that idea that working with people effectively, working with a VA or a graphic designer or social media manager, hypothetically, can be really amazing and can really free up your time to focus on the things that are your core strengths.
Yeah. So would anybody like to take a seat here and tell us a little bit maybe about how you rested over the holidays or how you are jumping into 2016? We'd love to hear from you. But Christina, I didn't mean if you had anything else to add, please do.
No, ma'am, not currently.
I love this. We have some new first timers here on Blab.
Yeah. Yep. Love to see anyone in the seat, but
we're still good at multitasking.
Just for the honesty factor, I think that getting back into it is really tough. And I wanted to keep my laptop shut another day. I love working. And so I knew as soon as I did start working, I would love it. But I think, you don't need to feel like you have to want to be working again. You can still love your business and still want time away from it. It's like a boyfriend. It's like any relationship or friendship.
No, that's so true. And yeah, even easing back into it can be tough. I'm not going to lie. After we sign off of this, I will probably lay down and take a 20-minute power nap.
Get it, girl. Hello, we have a taker in the hot seat.
Hello, are you in your car? Here.
I am. I pulled over because Coach Jenny inevitably shoves me.
I love
it. Of course, safety first. We like it.
She's really good at that.
Sorry.
Can you tell us how to pronounce your name? I was so afraid to say it because I didn't want to butcher it.
Me too.
Oh, well, first, don't be afraid to say it because I get that all the time and I'm not offended. Cool. It's Kina.
Kina.
Okay, perfect.
I was going to guess Kina, so I'm kind of glad I didn't.
Yep, but that wouldn't be the first time I heard that. So
tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So my name is simply Kina B. You'll hear me say Kina B, and my whole name is Kina Baker. And I am your right-hand woman. And what that means is I help you simplify how you run your business. And my kind of title has come from years of being a VA, a business manager, operations manager, OBM, primarily working with coaches. And so I'm using my experience, skill set, personality, emotional side, and bringing that to the clients that I serve.
That's awesome. Do you work with a specific niche of clients?
I have worked primarily with coaches. I'm slowly working with people who are outside of that industry, because they end up bringing on teams. And when people call me, they're having an issue with either starting a team or the team that they have, and they feel like they're in the middle and they're wanting to get out of that. So your right-hand woman concept came from me understanding that 9 times out of 10, the person that you need to run your team is already on your team. You're just not using them the way that you need to. So
that's an awesome concept. So tell us a little bit more. Did you take some time off, or how are you jumping into 2016?
I did take time off because I transitioned from a major client that I was working with. And so, as I said, you heard me allude to, I'm very emotional, so I needed some breakup time. But more than that, I always use this time of year to reflect. I do that often, but I think, like you, I reflected and let it sit on me so that I can tell the story. Because telling a story when you're in the middle of mess is not a good idea. And so, now it's so that I'm telling a story from a perspective of lessons learned. And thanks to Coach Jenny. I mean, she has really, whether she knows it or not, and I'm saying this because I know she's here, she has inspired me in more ways than one. Sarah, I was on your blab when she interviewed you. And she has kind of caused me to be more audacious, and so
that's great.
Yeah, no, I love that. I'm Coach Jenny's client too, and I think I speak for Christina and I when we say we get a ton of inspiration from Jenny all the time, as well as those nice cathartic shoves.
Yes.
So I have to ask though, have you read Rising Strong?
Okay, so that's the other part of my break. I finished Rising Strong. Actually, I finally finished the last page yesterday. Nice. And Sarah, I mean, to everybody, if you have not read that book, I almost demand you do it, because there were so many times where I would stop and I'm like, Brene, say that. Like, I'm talking to her in the car when I was listening to it, and I have the physical book, but I was just like, she touched on so many things that as a society that we touch on, but more so she was touching on things that I was dealing with and I couldn't put words to it. So I'm like, that book is powerful.
Yeah, no, it's so fun. I read it in early December because Coach Jenny was having a blab, of course. So I kind of wish you were on that. But when you said something about not telling the story while you're in that messy middle, that immediately I was like, oh, she's reading Rising Strong.
Definitely. Yeah, again, you don't realize that that's what you have done. Like, you tell the story when you're in the middle, instead of like giving yourself the time and space to feel the emotion, and then again be able to tell the story from, this is what I learned, this is what I figured out about myself. And
so I'm curious to mention another one of our little girl crushes over here. We love Elizabeth Gilbert of Big Magic. And so I don't know if you've ever listened to the Magic Lessons podcast, but she has Brene Brown on one of the episodes. And one thing that Brene Brown said that really struck me was, you don't need to feel like you have to tell your story for other people. You wait until you feel your story, and then you can share it with other people. So you're not trying to get healing from other people by telling your story.
Exactly. Because sometimes they don't have the capacity to give it to you anyway.
Right.
And so you're going to them asking for it, and you're basically setting yourself up for failure, setting yourself up to be disappointed. And had to learn that about several people. I'm like, oh gosh, I was asking them for something that they couldn't give me.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, so, I really hope you'll join us when we do our blab for Rising Strong, because I feel like we could just go on for like an hour right now on that.
Yes.
So I would love to jump over to your 2016 priorities for your business. And if you've done any business planning for the new year, if you did any kind of review of 2015, no pressure if you didn't, but just curious about how you're kind of moving forward in your business.
Yeah, so my word for this year is consistency. And what I realized was in the years past, I picked the word like everybody else, but that's where it stopped. And so I had to lay out what consistency meant to me. Fortunately, I was in a master class with Jenny on Monday, and we talked about that because I was like, you know what's missing here? Why is it that I pick a word and come June, I have forgot the word, or I'm not, living up to that word. Mm-hmm. So I did do some planning. I defined what consistency meant to me. Uh-huh. And what actions I would take, because that was the other piece that was missing. Like, so beyond doing all the planning, like, what are my actions now? Mm-hmm. So yeah, I dug deep with this year. So
that's great. Yeah, and we always like to talk with our coaching clients about having kind of, like Sarah said, a manifesto or having a mission statement and then weighing your actions against it. And so even a simple word could be that guidepost to measure against as you go throughout the year. So I like that a lot.
Yeah, can you give us kind of a preview of what consistency means for you?
Well, consistency is, and I'll start with self-care first, because I feel like the things that I need to do to take care of myself, journaling, meditating, reading something that is going to inspire me, and taking a break, like disconnecting, that was all important for me to be consistent with. Mm-hmm. So I had to start there. But then beyond that, figuring out what it is that I want to put out to the world, at least to my community, that would serve them. And so every quarter I'm going to have a different course, a different program that I'm offering. And even backing up, just saying, what does that look like? Mm-hmm. So I need to consistently blog, consistently be on Blab. I mean, so it was really getting specific, down to figuring out the next 3 months of what the topics were going to be. So I think you mentioned themes. I mean, I went from themes to having the topics to go with those themes, so that I wouldn't get stuck with the blank screen or figuring out, what am I going to do now? So I got really specific on what it was, what actions that I would take.
Yeah, no, and I think the beauty of building in that consistency, especially when it comes to something like self-care, is that that's the first thing to go when you do get overwhelmed or stressed or things pop up that you didn't expect. And so by building in that consistency, it just almost becomes a habit and something you kind of can't move on without. And that's really important, because so often we wait until it's like it's reactive instead of proactive. So I love that was the first thing you mentioned for consistency.
Yeah. Speaking our language. Awesome.
Well, and I think not only that, you even go beyond like those moments or those times when you don't feel like it. If you already have what you need to do in place, it's easier for you to make it happen versus not really, kind of being wishy-washy or not have an idea what actions you're going to take. You're more than likely you're not going to do anything. And I had to realize that about myself, that the reason why I wasn't consistent was because I really had no action plan in place. Mm-hmm. So yeah.
I'm so glad you pulled over and then jumped on to share your insight. It's awesome having you. Safe travels for sure. I'm super impressed that you're doing this from your car.
Yeah, I'm in here probably more than I want to be, but it's okay.
Enjoy your day. Sorry.
Yeah. No. Thanks for joining us, and now we know how to pronounce your name.
Yes.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, and you enjoy the rest of your day as
well.
Thanks.
We'll see you again on Blab soon, I'm sure. Bye.
Yes, you will. Have a good one.
Awesome. Love having new guests. All right.
Awesome.
So if anybody else wants to chime in, I think Christina just opened the seat there.
Yes, ma'am.
And also for those of you that see me kind of dancing around, it's my second day with a standing desk, and I'm just like, I can't stand still.
How's that back going?
Yeah, it's good. But yesterday I had to quit at like 3 o'clock. I was like, oh, my lower back. This is so sad. But yeah, I love it. I love it. I have to give a shout out to Carrie from Careful Sense because I actually won this standing desk on one of her blabs. So that was a great day.
Good. Awesome. Well, looks like no one's taking the seat, so maybe we wrap up.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. And remember, rest does not equal rust.
Yes, absolutely not. And we'd love to hear your comebacks to that too. So feel free to tweet us at One Woman Shop. That would be awesome. The standing desk. Yeah. So it's actually, you can find it on Amazon. The company is like I'm looking at the box, PWR Plus. It's actually a relatively cheap one compared to other standing desks. But yeah. So yeah, if you have any comebacks to the rest equals rust statement that got us fired up, tweet us at One Woman Shop, or just shoot us an email at hello@onewomanshop.
Yep, and we will see you next Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time here on Blab, and I'll actually be on Eastern Time next week.
Oh, that's so exciting! Thank you all for being here.
Bye, guys. Take care.
Have a great.
Yes. Bye.